For everyone that doesn't know, this is my wife, Kirsten. I don't know if you're going to be there. That's Kirsten. She's my wife. Uh, and she's an amazing human being. She has her bachelor's degree in English, specializing in poetry. She has a poetry Instagram called All the Fires. You should go check it out. And she also has her bachelor's degree in psychology, and she has her master's degree in social work, and she has her master's degree in English.
Nope,
And
sure don't.
oh, no, I said that wrong. She has her master's degree in education, and she was an English teacher, a middle school English teacher for 3 years. She is a returned Peace Corps volunteer where she taught English for 2 years in Rwanda. She was also a social worker for like 10 years, and now she negotiates and writes. I approximated. She negotiates and writes contracts for a hospital, a network of hospitals. And that is all really cool stuff. And she's also very strong. We all want to see how strong. Strong! So strong! Oh my
This is
gosh.
Doug. He's my husband.
We're here to talk about husbands in training. I started doing husbands in training with my mom. Part of the reason that I shut it down, we made like 12 videos, but then it really stressed her out. This idea that everyone was seeing her, that people were going to know her, that people were going to comment things about her, people might not like the things that she says. And I decided I don't think that she could handle the comments that people give you. Because I know what this is like. I know what it's like to get a lot of people really not liking the things that you say. I know what it's like to have people really attacking your character because you said something like, men should care about our own mental health. And they're like, how dare you? And I knew that she couldn't handle some of that. She really is enjoying being retired, spending time with her grandkids, and I don't think that she wanted the extra stress. So we talked about it. We decided to just kind of stop. And it was her thing. Husbands in Training was her thing. So that was like 2 years ago. And so we ended it. But I've always had this in the back of my mind that this was something really good and it could have been something really good and it just never reached the potential that it had. And so I think it's time to reassess it and look at it again and see if this can turn into something different from what my mom did with me and my brothers, but something good moving forward. And so I thought we'd just hang out and talk about what to do with husbands in training.
What knowledge that you have to share is something that people are looking for and eager to hear from the perspective of someone who has lived it out and seen the benefits of this type of not really training, just your philosophy on life, kind of based on what you were taught growing up, but also just your openness to the world and to learn and grow and try to be a better person has taught you a lot. And I think our marriage has taught you a lot. It's not only something that people need to hear, but want to hear, especially parents who are raising children, particularly boys, and the current climate and culture of men, specifically in America, and the way that things have been in recent years. I think it's more important now than even a few years ago to get that message out and teach young men how to heal themselves, how to consider themselves and their own mental health, and then move into what that looks like in relationships, regardless of what those relationships are, whether they're romantic relationships or friendships or relationships with their family members. I think this relates to all of that. I like the hands on approach also that this took. I know we worked on some handouts, some questions, some things to discuss with your children and with your partners. And I think that that's really helpful too, that often people are looking for, you hear a lot of information, you get a lot of information, and then, I do this all the time. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And then tomorrow I've already forgotten it, but having something that's hands-on that you can practice and put into play like immediately in your life and your relationships, I think is really helpful.
I agree. I think that having curriculum that goes along with the videos, I think is super helpful because we watch and consume so much content, and it's not like manliness podcasts and videos don't exist. They exist. There's a lot of them. I think having it be more intentional about like actual things that you can implement, actual things that you can work on. I think that's what often is missing. I think there's a lot of talk and a lot less involvement of the viewer. Training, I think, was from the beginning the wrong word. I love what my mom was doing, what my mom did with her sons. And like when you, as a parent, when you're raising a child, you are training them. But this idea of husbands in training or men in training, I think that even just that wording is immediately off-putting to men. People are always trying to train train men. Often men aren't looking for training as much there as we are looking for personal development. That we want to be the best men that we can be, but we don't want to be told what being the best man is as a part of a training program, because training sounds like you get training at work, you get training at your job, and like being a man isn't your job, being a husband isn't your job. It's something that you are excited about, it's something you really want to do. And so that idea of like being trained to be a good husband, it's like you shouldn't be trained to be a good husband. You should actively seek out the best ways to be the best husband you can be, or the best ways to be the best man or partner or person that you can be.
For your mother, it made more sense in context because we do train our children. That is part of
Yeah.
being a parent, is training your children to be the best people that they can be, to be productive members of society. And that is, there's a power dynamic there as a parent, that you have some kind of authority over your child and you're training them similarly, like you said, at your job, where your boss or supervisor is training you to do a job. And I do think that is how we approach parenthood. But I think that this can be more than just working as a parent with your children. I think it does start there. I think it's really an important step in this process. But also, I think that these lessons and things can be used for adult men and women in their growth and development. And so it's kind of a twofold thing. And I think your mother was using it as a training tool for her sons, whereas this is maybe broader than that.
Well, and so many partnerships end up in this like parent-child relationship, which is so toxic to a partnership that then it ends up feeling like, oh, I'm trying to train my spouse to be a better person and to be a better spouse. Partnership should not look like parenthood. It's partnerhood. And so it should not look like this one person trying to train the other person to get on board with the relationship. It should be two people growing together and both people learning lessons that they need to learn, both people figuring themselves out, both people becoming just better at building up that partnership. And so, yeah, definitely moving away from that like training model, because that seems much more like a parent-child relationship, and into a growth model.
It has to be something that the individual themselves wants to do and wants to work on. I think that training of a spouse comes in where particularly you have the woman in the relationship who would want their man to partake in this thing. Like you've talked about on your TikTok, where women are trying to get their partners to go to therapy or trying to get their partners to do this, that, and the other. And that just doesn't work for true individual growth and development. And so the training really comes in that these lessons are a training for an individual, but they have to be open and ready and willing and want that training. It can't just be like a parent providing this information to children, which is appropriate, but it's not appropriate in a partnership for one partner to sort of be pushing this on someone else, because it's just not going to work. Recommending it or showing it to them or saying, hey, can we do this together? Sure, but not like, I need you to do this to be a better person. That just never works.
Well, and it's like really wanting to reach those people who are difficult to reach. The audience that's easiest to reach are moms who really want to raise boys to be better men. That's an easy audience to reach because that is an audience that is desperately seeking any advice that they can get because they grow up in a world where they see a lot of men who hurt women and hurt others and they don't want that for their sons. And so that is a group that is seeking out this information. The group that is a little bit harder to reach is finding those men who want this for themselves. And they exist and they are seeking, but they don't know where to look. Finding those men who want good information about navigating the world as a man. It's just that there's so much terrible information about navigating the world as a man out there that the men that seek it out, they find something that actually ends up hurting them more. That audience of dads who are also wanting to raise their children in a very intentional way. I don't want to tailor information towards men to the point that it overlooks a lot of the issues that men face and overlooks a lot of the issues that men cause. Being a man and becoming more introspective and becoming more aware of how men navigate the world and the effect that men have on the world can be a very painful process. So I think a lot of those men get lost along the way, that they initially seek out that information, but eventually end up consuming content that doesn't hurt their feelings as much. Some of the process of becoming the best man that you can be requires you to go through a little bit of a painful process and requires you to deconstruct your idea of what it means to be a man. And it might not be fun all the time.
Maybe this is overgeneralization, but I feel like women tend to have faced a lot of discomfort and adversity throughout their lives. We just always do from the time we're born. Culturally, we just face a lot of pushback on everything that we do, and we are often hurt and taken advantage of and used in many ways. And so working through discomfort in ourselves and therapy is never comfortable. It's never easy. If you're actually learning and growing, therapy is very hard. And I think that's something that women are much more accustomed to, working through pain and working through discomfort. I think men often sit in a place of comfort and always have, in a way that they don't realize. Men sitting in discomfort often is something that they're just unaccustomed to, and they don't know how to handle that. And that's where you have to have the men who are in a place where they're ready to do that. A lot of the podcasts and information that men start to get and consume so much of is tailored towards how to get a woman, how to become a partner, how to figure out what it is that women want and be that, or pretend to be that, or try to change women to be something for you. I feel like it's very woman-centric, and this type of thing here that you're trying to do is not woman-centric. It is how to be a better person, better man on your own, through your own development, through your own growth, through working through your own traumas and your own difficulties in life and dealing with that head on, completely unrelated to what someone else thinks about it, particularly what a woman thinks about it. And I think that's where this is different, that you have to find men who are actually in a place where they want to become an individual, healthy person, whether or not that has any effect on a woman or getting a woman, whether they are in a partnership or not.
We tend to focus a lot on physical pain. We can overcome physical pain and exhaustion and push our bodies to their physical limit, but we are not accustomed to psychological pain or emotional pain, that women go through a lot more of that. Women take quite the beating emotionally and mentally in their younger years in a very different way than men do. Whenever I talk to men, about being better men, about trying to be the best versions of ourselves, someone always brings women into the center of it. That there's a lot of talk in women's communities about decentering men and like don't focus on men when we're talking about women's issues and making like women should be the center of women's lives. I think there's something similar that men do, that men center women as a way to avoid actually looking at ourselves. I think there are times that men need to be the center of men's discussions. That if I'm talking to another man about our mental health, our emotional health, and our coping skills, like even just talking about building coping skills with another man, it easily, very quickly gets derailed when they start to talk about that we don't need to build coping skills, avoiding building coping skills because of turning women into this enemy and putting all of this blame on women when that really shouldn't be a part of the discussion at all. So like obviously training we want to take out. I don't think being a husband should be the ultimate goal of a man. We need a new name that's not husbands in training. And I don't know what to name it. And it needs to start with an H because we have such a good logo and branding and colors. And we went through all of that and it's an H. And so we need a new name for this.
You know, a lot of people are saying like how to human or even humans in training. I know you want to move away from training.
I was thinking maybe just like humanity, but then like man in capital letters, humanity. I like how to human or, but even just moving away from that how to, I think sometimes these things get very commercial and you get to where people are selling you a program. And I want it to just be like, we are people and we are working together to just try to have better relationships and try to have better community. And so, yeah, something that starts with an H that just gives that idea. I think we need everyone to like comment and let us know, just brainstorm as many names as possible.
Thank you. Thank you for subscribing.
I love you.
Like, subscribe.
I think you're the prettiest person on the world.
I am on the world.